We begin tonight with managing marijuana and what could be an unintended consequence of legalization. Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Matt Templeman.
And I'm China Green in for Renee. In tonight's special report, KEZI 9 News reporter Jillian Smuckler looks at drug-sniffing canines who were trained to sniff out pot. And as she found out, many of those dogs are now looking for a new line of work.
Good boy.
Meet Mako. He's a drug detection dog with the Oregon State Police. Law enforcement has used canines like Mako for 100 years, but they still play an important role in fighting illegal drugs, and they do it all with their nose.
People that smuggle drugs, they get very sophisticated in their methods of concealing it. They put them in compartments and hide them very well in different locations, and so without the aid of the dog, we wouldn't find most of it.
When a drug dog hits on a certain smell, it's enough to give police probable cause, and that can trigger a criminal investigation.
Good girl.
Traditionally, dogs in Oregon were trained to sniff out 4 drugs: meth, heroin, cocaine, and marijuana. And it's that last drug, marijuana, that's the problem. When the state legalized pot in 2015, it created an unintended problem for canine handlers.
Dogs that are trained already to smell for marijuana, it can complicate things for some agencies as far as case law and being able to search for other narcotics.
Brooke Reinhardt, an attorney with the Lane County Public Defender's Office, says using marijuana sniffing dogs can cause legal challenges in prosecutions.
It's unlikely that a court would allow the dog's behavior to constitute a legal basis for police searching because of what the dog did.
In the last few years, departments all across the state have been forced to adjust. And in many cases, that means training new dogs. Danner with the Springfield Police Department is trained to smell for 3 specific drugs: cocaine, meth, and heroin, not marijuana.
A sample of marijuana is actually hidden on this side of the vehicle. Let's see what she does. Now let's compare that to one of the drugs she is trained to find. A sample of heroin is hidden on this side of the vehicle. Watch the difference in behavior from the dog. As you can see, she was able to find the heroin that was hidden there. Such a difference in reaction there.
Even though dogs only hit on the drugs they're trained to find, the way they alert officers when they smell a drug on their list is all the same, which is a huge problem for those 4 odor dogs who can't differentiate between, let's say, heroin and marijuana.
It's still an open question under Oregon law whether a smell of marijuana is enough to do anything further in a vehicle now that marijuana has been made legal.
So what happens to those dogs that are already trained to search for marijuana? Oregon State Police decided to phase them out because retraining them didn't make sense.
There's different theories when you talk about training a dog to no longer find marijuana, and we didn't feel comfortable with trying to either do extinction training or train them to do a different response at the time to the odor of marijuana, so we decided to retire the dogs.
But the Springfield Police Department actually trained one of their 2 drug-sniffing canines to sniff for it after it became legal.
Our 4-odor dog is irreplaceable and serves a very functional purpose here.
This includes finding marijuana inside jails and schools, as well as in direct investigations where a search warrant already exists. But as for traffic stops, the dogs are normally off the case, which Reinhardt says is a good idea.
That's not a tool that law enforcement can use, and any evidence that's found as a result of that is likely to be suppressed or thrown out.
Officials tell me there are only 6 dogs left in the entire state of Oregon that are trained to sniff for marijuana since the legalization of pot. They say before it became legal, there were between 60 to 70. But replacing dogs isn't cheap. The Springfield Police Department tells me it can cost anywhere from $3,000 to $10,000 to buy and train these canines. And they say it all depends on where they're bought. This makes these canines a huge commitment, which is why many of these dogs facing early retirement because of marijuana being legal is hard on agencies.
Retiring your dog before you anticipated it, it makes it difficult because we invest a lot of time and money into these dogs, and the handlers have a great bond with these dogs. Luckily, we were able to retire almost all of them, and the handlers were able to keep them.
We spend more time with our dogs than we do with our family because that dog is truly a part of your life 24/7.
As for the dogs who used to make a living smelling pot, they're enjoying an early retirement, making way for the new laws and a new breed of canines. Reporting in Eugene, Jillian Smuckler, KEZI 9 News.
Great story there, Jillian. Thank you.